Hello, my name is Chuck Dunning. I'm the author of Contemplative Masonry and the Contemplative Lodge. My Masonic career has been focused on helping other Masons understand and engage the contemplative dimension of our craft. Part of this mission is pointing to a way of being a Mason that is concerned with our tradition's philosophical and spiritual depths. And that includes clarifying how our ritual and monitor teachings literally urge us to see Masonry in this way. One of the best examples I know for such clarification is a question and answer encountered by new Masons in almost every jurisdiction and very early in their Masonic experience, which I have translated here into a more common way of speaking. Question: what are you here to do? Answer: to be educated, to manage my desires and passions and better myself in this tradition. Okay, that sounds pretty good, right? But let's not be satisfied with a superficial sentiment of good intentions here. Let's ask what Masonry really means by these words about improving ourselves. Well, taking that answer as a guide, the work starts with circumscribing passions and desires, but it doesn't end there. If it did end there, then there would be no point to our ritual going further to emphasize things like the blazing star of truth, a metaphorical ladder between heaven and earth, contemplating the divine handiwork in nature, attending to the liberal arts and sciences, pondering the murder of an inspired and brilliant master craftsman, or inculcating a mission to recover the lost word and continually seek additional light. The virtues our tradition upholds are obviously not only behavioral virtues, but emotional, intellectual, and spiritual virtues as well. These things and much more provide us abundant opportunities to realize that Masonry presents itself as an initiatic society of mutual support among members doing the work of self-exploration, learning, and transformation into more enlightened beings who are better prepared to benefit others. Once again, please note that this is the ritual of Masonry speaking for itself, revealing its own purposes. It is not a speculative interpretation referencing the ancient mysteries, alchemy, Kabbalah, Hermeticism, Rosicrucianism, or any other tradition or school. It does not require an elaborate exercise in intellectual gymnastics to decipher what Masonry intends as its central aims. Our ritual and monitorial instructions very plainly state the core concerns of the craft. It's important for us to take note of these things, not only for our individual benefit, but because our fraternity is in a significant moment of transition. Many of us understandably lament the decline of our membership, the loss of funds, and the decay of magnificent buildings. But such laments need not be our focus, because regardless of how prideful we have been about them, large membership numbers, flowing rivers of money, and fancy buildings are not what our ritual says we are about. Furthermore, I'm afraid the doom and gloom view of our present will lead us further down a road that twists Masonry into something it was never intended to be. Now, I am not denying the importance of attracting new members, being financially sound, and having nice places to meet. These are all really important things. I'm simply recalling that they're not our primary purposes. And I'm suggesting that when we try to make them so, sometimes perhaps even without realizing it, well, then we're putting the cart before the horse. So I prefer to think of this moment in history as a renaissance. I've been calling it the American Masonic Renaissance, but I have reason to believe it's also a global Masonic Renaissance. Simply put, It is a reawakening to our traditional and timeless mission. If we embrace our calling, then the builder's art will always be in demand by those adults who really want what our ritual says it is about. We will offer them something that they cannot get anywhere else in the world. And as an institution, we will in turn benefit from their enthusiasm and commitment. Now, this renaissance is already underway. Just take a moment to consider the explosion of Masonic philosophical education that has happened in the last decade or so. We have realized that this is what a significant percentage of Masons and candidates expect in return for their money and time. They want their fraternal experiences to have deep meaning, to be inspiring, and to equip them with the tools necessary to learn and grow into wiser, stronger, and more beautiful expressions of human potential, an expectation perfectly aligned with what our ritual says. Thankfully, the fraternity has started recognizing this demand and is therefore finding ways to increase a corresponding supply through various means like guest speakers, workshops, trainings, conferences, and study courses. And while I am glad to see this evidence of our renaissance, I also don't think we should take it for granted. The word renaissance literally means rebirth. And among human beings, every birth or rebirth and the new life arising through it needs to be tended with loving care. This phase of infancy in Masonry's emerging future is a delicate and tender phase. And what we do to nurture and support it will shape the craft for generations to come. Ensuring that we perform ritual well and have quality programming to help appreciate the ritual's meanings are paramount. But we must also be mindful and compassionate with each other along the way, meeting all our brethren on the level and remembering our principal tenets of truth, relief, and brotherly love. We need to recognize that the changes of this renaissance are uncomfortable for some of us, that the surge of interest and enthusiasm for Masonic education is sometimes met with suspicion and even outright resistance. And why is that? Well, let me start my answer to that question by saying I think it's too easy to simply blame it on the temptation to maintain the status quo. It's shallow and short-sighted to lay it entirely at the feet of brothers who are content with doing what they've always done. Too often, this division among us is also fueled by the fact that the zeal some of us feel for Masonic philosophy can sometimes lead us to act snobbish, unkind, and intolerant toward Masons who are more interested in different aspects of our fraternal experience. And we may not even realize that we're doing it. So we must always be mindful that many of our brothers were attracted to the craft because it offers a trusted way for good people to form enduring friendships and have fun together. Some were drawn to the lodge's commitment to community service or contributions to wonderful philanthropies. Others have been attracted to Masonry because they saw the opportunity to develop themselves as organizational leaders. Some have seen it as a rite of passage into a circle of beloved elders and therefore an opportunity to participate in cherished mentoring relationships. Still others find great satisfaction in being able to perform beautiful rituals and ceremonies with genuine feeling and skillful attention to detail. To regard Masonic philosophical education as inherently opposed to any of those things, or vice versa, is a sad misunderstanding. We should therefore frequently and warmly affirm that such education isn't about eliminating any of them or demeaning them as insignificant. In fact, my personal observation is that most of the Masons I know who are strongly committed to Masonic philosophy are also happily involved in one or more, if not all, of these other Masonic activities. After all, each of them is alluded to, if not directly lauded, in our ritual. They are the kinds of things that people manifest with greater understanding and joy when they unfold the depths of wisdom, strength, and beauty deep within their souls. So, allow me to close with an urgent plea that we all try to do these three things. First, let's check our own egos repeatedly and give each other the benefit of the doubt about motives and intentions. Second, let's strive to reference our deepest understanding of the ritual when we think, speak, or write about what Masonry is and should be. And third, let's pray for and envision an emerging future in which the craft, regardless of its numbers, is vibrant with members committed to the work of transformation into wiser, stronger, and more beautiful human beings, each in whatever ways they choose for themselves. Thank you for listening.